many of you would probably realize this, but in the last 10 years, the pharma index in India is up 18% CAGR over a decade. Shockingly, many of you are fond of FMCG companies. The FMCG index is 2 percentage points below the pharma index. And during this journey, many of the FMCG companies are trading at 2x, 3x, some instances even 5x the valuations of pharma companies. Why is that? Why is it that investors probably have a little more apathy towards pharma than they do towards FMCG? Is there some lack of understanding in pharma? What are the issues that are surrounding them? So all of the questions that I'm probably going to ask, the panel is going to really be talking, and maybe we'll feed off some of their questions or responses, but are really a function of the conversations that I've had with some of you a few minutes before all of this started. So these are not questions, these are just jottings out here. So let me start with the biggest issue at hand. We've seen big deratings in Indian companies, largely on the back of compliance issues. Sun, Dr. Reddy's. And what is really happening, Satish? You're the best person to answer this. Has the US FDA raised the bar? Why is it that suddenly, when somebody like you who had a pristine record for compliance is suddenly struggling and is caught off guard?
So very good evening, everyone. I was just told there is a little bit of media presence, so I'll be a little bit guarded in my statements. So this is not being defensive, but just a little bit guarded on that. So, Madhav, the question is, it's like, this is not all of a sudden. Let me put it that way. Because if you also put it in perspective and see what's been happening, say, over the last 10 years, ever since most of the Indian companies have been operating in the market and have scaled up, you're looking at a situation where, yes, there is an increased scrutiny from the FDA. That's a given. That's clearly there. But then if you also see the growth in the industry, growth in number of facilities, the largest number of US FDA approved facilities are outside of the US are in India. That's one. If you see the number of filings outside of the US, largest numbers are from India in terms of what you see. So if you see the load on the FDA coming because of India, that's pretty high. And then if you also see the workings within the FDA, they also had to keep pace with this explosive growth, let me put it that way. So you're seeing that happen. But then coming to the core issues in terms of what's happening to most of the companies, I can talk about in general about what's happening with companies. They've also expanded rapidly. You're talking about companies expanding on their own, which is they build their own factories and then did it over a period of time. There are companies who have old factories, new factories, manual systems, automatic systems. It's a mix of things. Companies who have grown through acquiring facilities, that's also something you have seen. It introduces a lot of complexity in this entire scheme of things.
So integration-related challenges as well. And you've got to step up everybody to a certain level.
Absolutely. So I'm just saying there are other factors also playing into it. It's not that FDA has suddenly woken up and decided to go after Indian companies. So that I really won't say that that's the reason. But it's also the issue of, the keeping pace proportionately with how things have grown rapidly is I think the key issue here.
So because the scale has increased, we are noticing a few dark spots out there.
Plus there are a few other issues also. Let me just talk about one other thing, which is even the skills, right? When it relates to the people issues, that's also something we face, because you're looking at an industry which has grown in terms of number of facilities, in terms of number of people, and then if you see the issues which happen, especially when there's a bad inspection. There's something called a remediation that goes on. Some companies are going through right now. It again calls for more people, especially in the quality space. The skills, the numbers, we are woefully short of that. And that's also something we have to see. And then it starts right from the education system itself, in terms of what the issue is.
Right. That's interesting that you mentioned that it's not just exclusive to Indian companies. Ranjit, I noticed in the Novartis Global Pharma presentation that your Turbhe facility has also got a warning letter. So you might want to talk a little bit about what's really happening and why are MNC companies also really struggling. Is this the same issue that Satish pointed out of talent shortage within India, or is it a culture issue?
No, first of all, as everybody knows, the US FDA, in God they believe, the rest they audit. If it's not been written down, it's not been done. I know, like you have Olympics every 4 years. With FDA, it's Olympics every year. The bar just gets higher. And I think the standard of scrutiny has actually increased generally. Also, in the past, if you remember, they may have had the less number of inspectors. They gave you notice before they arrive. Now they come suddenly. So it's not about just the operation that you carry out, but is it in the DNA of the organization? Is the whole process in there? And as Satish rightly pointed out, with all these M&As which are happening, standardization of processes, integrating the people, it's extremely important. And also this one element which has played out a lot in the media, that the US FDA has been targeting the Indian industry. I personally believe that's not true, because if you look at the total number of letters, warning letters they wrote last year, about 114 or so, about 18 were for domestic industries, the rest were for global operations. Novartis, globally we received 2 as well. So I think they're getting very, I wouldn't use the word intrusive, but they're getting very tough. The fact that they open an office in India and have more inspectors here is we're under scrutiny. So we have our act together, but I think now it's going to be random inspections. They'll be a bit more intrusive than they were before. The American consumer is saying, I'm not sure, that 40% of prescriptions come from India, and are these safe enough? So I think they're also under pressure, the regulator through the government and the others, to make sure that not only what they inspect in India, but globally, which the Americans are having, is really the right medicine.
So the intense scrutiny is something that we should continue to expect and keep expecting them to keep raising the bar, is what you're saying?
I would certainly believe so.
Okay. So let's talk to some of the relatively younger entrants into the US generic side. Rajiv, is there a last mover advantage? Satish says there are older facilities, maybe raising the bar is a challenge, but at the same time, he says it's harder to get people with the skill sets. So what are the challenges for a last mover, or is there a last mover advantage?
I wish there was a last mover advantage, but I think, as Satish was saying, the pool that we all dip into is the same. If he's hiring, anybody is hiring, it's essentially the same pool. And the skill sets, the attitudes that cause data integrity are across the board, across the industry. I will not say it's just that only that company has it and we don't have it. I think that's a little foolish to talk. I think the king is you require very strong training. You need to have very good bandwidth in management. So you need constant mock inspection, constant training, and employees being honest when things happen. And I think when you run an operation which has multiple products, you're going to have deviations that happen. You're going to have raw material failures. And when things happen, you need to have a robust system where you're reporting these and documenting these and having a good action plan. And a lot of the issues that you see the most plants face is that these incidents happen and they're not closed properly. And I think, and unless we have strong training and good bandwidth in management, you're not going to address these issues. And I think across the industry, we need to, we're putting a lot of effort, but I think we probably need to work harder to meet the higher standards.
Yogesh, you're also a relatively new entrant. So some element of it is preventing the problem, and a second element is probably risk mitigation. So is multiple filings or filings for US generics through multiple locations one possible solution?
Absolutely. I mean, it is one way of mitigating the risk which you have. But then that is a cultural issue of the whole company. So I was just like to carry on from what Satish said. It's last 10 years has been phenomenal for the generic industry. It started by companies like Dr. Reddy's, then Ranbaxy. And we have number of inspection, and only late mover's advantage we guys have, like me and Rajiv, is we have a talent pool which these guys have created, which we can pull from.
Yeah, you hired 2 US guys from Dr. Reddy's, I saw that.
No, but I think what we are seeing lately is, as you said, the bar is going up, and it's a evolution. It happens with the FDA. What we see 10 years back and now, and it's going to always keep going up. So the industry always have to catch up. What we are saying is largely two things. One is this, the data integrity, what we call, so-called data integrity. I think there's some kind of understanding issue also probably in our country when it goes to the facility at ground level. Because what FDA more and more is saying is that they're finding things which are not being reported. So if they were being reported and they were analyzed and scrutinized and proper action were taken, I don't think FDA has an issue on that. So what FDA is not liking is that they are what they are finding is they are not being reported. And that is kind of creating some kind of trust deficit, if I can call it. But I think from whatever we've seen, it's a big wake-up call for the Indian pharma industry, which we are all taking note of. What FDA likes to see is analyze what the problem is and take the corrective actions, and have you done enough? And I think most of us are taking note, and we are doing adequate to train our guys to surface out whatever things which come up and not to kind of put them under the carpet. Escalate them up, let the senior guys get involved, let them brainstorm, and then, find the solutions for that. So I won't say, as I said, 500 facilities are in India. We cater to, in terms of volume, 40% of the generic is being catered from India. In value, I think it's about 18 to 20%. So also what is happening is we see that there is one 483 which comes up and it goes all over the place, economic ET now and this and that. 483, 60 to 70% of the inspection happening across, whether it is India or any part of the world. 60 to 70% of the inspection result into 483. So 483 is not the end of the world. I think what happens thereafter, how you handle the 483, what seriousness they are, and do they result into the warning letter is what one has to see. So I would just like to demystify about what the 483 is, and going forward, what is the warning letter and all those serious things. So.